The Senate will come to order. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Majors, please call the roll. You may be seated.
Senators Aguilar, Aguilar,
Absent.
Balmer, Baumgartner, Carroll, Cook,
Excused.
Crowder, Donovan, Garcia, Grantham, Guzman, Heath, Hill, Hodge, Holbert, John, Johnston, Jones, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Martinez-Umenick, Merrifield, Neville, Newell, Roberts, Scheffel, Scott, Sonnenberg, Stedman, Todd, Ulibarri, Woods, Aguilar. Mr. President.
Here. 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused. We have a quorum. Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal for Friday, March 20th be dispensed with and that the journal be approved and corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is approved. The journal is adopted. Senate Services.
March 23rd, 2015, correctly printed Senate Bills 224, 225, 226, 227, 228, 229, 230, and 231. Senate Concurrent Resolution 1, correctly engrossed. Senate Bills 69 and 208, correctly revised. House Bills 1202, 1213, 1223, 1244, correctly re-revised. House Bill 1211.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request that Senate Bill 208 be removed from the third reading of bills consent calendar and placed at the end of the third reading of bills final passage calendar.
Senate Bill 208 will be removed from the third reading of bills consent calendar and placed at the end of the third reading of bills calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title of the remaining bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1223 by Representative Williams and Senators Balmer and John concerning the extension of current standards regarding home service contracts and new homes. House Bill 1213 by Representatives Tate and Tyler and Senators Martinez-Umenick and Neville concerning clarifications in connection with the responsibilities of the Office of Information Technology.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adopt the remaining bills on the third reading of bills for final passage consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1223 and House Bill 1213.
Is there further discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1223 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Holbert. With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1213 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Lambert. Third reading of bills. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 69?
Senate Bill 69 by Senator Woods, Representative Perillo, concerning the repeal of the Job Protection and Civil Rights Enforcement Act of 2013 in connection therewith reducing an appropriation.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate lay over Senate Bill 69 to March 24.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 69 will lay over until March 24th. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1202.
House Bill 1202 by Representative Singer, Senator Woods, concerning the ability of a licensing authority to reissue expired alcohol beverage licenses.
Senator Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1202 on third reading and final passage and ask for the use of the present roll call.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1202? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1202 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Holbert, Senator Grantham, Senator Neville, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Stedman, Senator Jones, Senator Kerr, Senator Newell, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Scott, Senator Heath, Senator Marble, Senator Merrifield, Senator Todd, Senator Hill, Senator Guzman. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1244.
House Bill 1244 by Representative Singer and Nordberg and Senators John L. Lumberg, concerning the ability of members of a club license under the Colorado Liquor Code to remove from the club a resale container or partially consumed finance liquor purchased at the club.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1244 and ask for a favorable approval.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1244? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1244 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Holbert, Senator Hodge, Senator Woods, Senator Neville, Senator Newell, Senator Marble, Senator Grantham, Senator Scott, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Guzman. Please add the President. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate Bill 208.
Senate Bill 208 by Senator Cafalas, Representative Brown, concerning capital-related expenditures in connection therewith granting the controller authority to allow expenditures for capital construction budget appropriations if non-monetary adjustments are needed when the legislature is not in session, adding a capital development committee-approved waiver for the arts and public places requirement, and clarifying the types of capital construction projects to which the arts and public places requirement applies.
Senator Cafalas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I move Senate Bill 208 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Oh, we have Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I humbly ask for permission to offer a third reading amendment.
Continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that I've been sufficiently hissed at. Colleagues, this bill went through awfully quickly on Friday on the consent calendar. I had spoken with the sponsor about a concern I had with it, and although there was an amendment to the section I was concerned with, it really didn't address the concern I had. And frankly, we were doing so many things on Friday, I didn't notice that this had been part of our consent calendar, or else I would have pulled it off and addressed this issue at that time. I would like to offer an amendment to narrow the section of the bill that creates exceptions to the 1% for public art requirement in public construction projects. As the bill stands before you currently, the bill would allow the Capital Development Committee to waive the 1% for art requirement when they believe that requirement is inconsistent with the original purposes of the law, whatever that means. I think it's a pretty broad power to waive a requirement that has served our state very well, and one that I would like to propose a more narrowly tailored way of accomplishing what the bill seeks to accomplish, hence my request for an amendment.
You have heard the motion for a request to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Permission is granted. Senator Stedman. Mr. Majors, please read the amendment.
Amendment L002 to Senate
Senator
Bill
Stedman.
208.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Amendment L002. And colleagues, if I can just take a moment to explain. Under our current laws, which date back to the early 1970s, and Colorado was actually a leader in this regard in saying that when we build a public construction project, when we're building a new state office building or a new classroom building on a college campus, we set a policy over 40 years ago of saying we will set aside 1% of the entire budget for that construction project to be used for public art, so that the building that we're building or the amphitheater that we're building, whatever the construction project is, will include funding for public art. This was a very progressive policy that was taken by our state decades ago to support our local arts community and have an opportunity for artists to be commissioned to participate in public construction projects. And there are wonderful examples of this. If you just go to the Ralph Carr building across the street, you'll see some amazing pieces of public art that were there because of the 1% for art requirement. Over the years, that statute has been amended to include a number of exceptions to the 1% requirement. For instance, if you're building, sewer lines or something, it's a little difficult to incorporate public art. The statute has been amended many times, and if you look at the statute, there are numbered paragraphs A through G. So I believe that's 8 different paragraphs that list exceptions for very specific purposes and various reasons. Senate Bill 208 would create paragraph H, which would basically be a blanket catch-all exemption that the requirement can also be waived whenever the Capital Development Committee thinks it's necessary to waive it. I think that's a policy we should not go quite so far with. If we're going to put this requirement in statute, and we think this requirement has served us well for many years, if we've created specific exceptions to the requirement over the years, that is the preferable way to go rather than granting a blanket waiver to the Capital Development Committee. And so, however, it turns out that the reason Senate Bill 208 proposes this is because the Capital Development Committee, and particularly their staff, has found that over the years, state agencies that have construction projects have been arguing about whether or not they fit within one of the exceptions. And sometimes it's a close call, whether something is really controlled maintenance of keeping up with an asset or investing in constructing a new asset. There are instances where that's a close call, and staff has been asked to be the arbiter of whether an exception applies. The purpose for this bill was to say, no, let's let the CDC vote to grant exceptions. I agree that it should be the prerogative of the legislature and what we put in statute that determines what has an exception. That shouldn't be something that our staff or our agencies are struggling with decisions on their own. It should be determined by our policies and what we write into statute. The amendment before you would narrow this new paragraph H to say that the CDC may vote to grant an exception when they find the project fits into one of the existing 8 exceptions that's already in law in paragraphs A through G. Meaning Senate Bill 208 is not going to create a new blanket waiver, a blanket exemption for anything the CDC wants to do, but rather it's going to say, we, the General Assembly, are the final arbiter of this decision. We wrote the statute. The Capital Development Committee will interpret whether or not a particular project falls within a request, and they will, by affirmative vote, decide if one of the existing exemptions applies. That way, staff doesn't get put in the position of making those determinations. There's a clear process for doing it, and we retain control of what we put in statute and what we think fits within our statutory exemptions. This is a way to solve the problem the bill sought to solve without creating such a broad blanket exemption power that the current draft before you proposes. I hope you'll agree this is a sensible way to solve this real problem without poking a big hole in our commitment to public arts in our construction projects. I hope you'll vote yes on 002.
Is there further discussion? Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I'm going to urge a no vote on the amendment. This is the first body. There is an opportunity to have this robust discussion in the House. This bill was approved unanimously, if I remember correctly, out of Capital Development Committee and is a Capital Development Committee bill. I remember the question was asked about the art and why this was important that we had that exemption in there. And honestly, right now, I can't recall what that answer was, other than the answer was sufficient enough to say that we did not need to change that, and it was good as the bill was drafted. I think it's important that the House go ahead and have this discussion and that we not add this amendment here, have that discussion where they can have testimony on it and take it, that testimony, rather than do this amendment on a third reading. So I would ask for your no vote on the amendment to Senate Bill 208.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too would ask for a no vote because I also sit on the Capital Development Committee, and there was discussions about this 1% and the exclusions, and I think it had to do with the timing that we were in session and out to give them a little more flexibility. But again, to try to fix this right here, third reading, on the fly, when it has to go to the House, I agree with my colleague from Sterling that I think that it could be better fixed in the House through more discussion. Ask for a no vote on L002.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, sorry for the confusion. My read on the amendment that is offered by the good senator from Denver is that we're trying to, I realize this is kind of last minute, and I also realize that the bill was on the consent calendar, but I think the intent of the amendment is to allow for a tightening up of the process whereby we decide what is exempt from the 1% set aside regarding our art in public places. And so I think the intent is good, and I am supportive of what the good senator from Denver is trying to do. Thank you.
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just wrap up and ask for an aye vote, but just say that it's odd that this bill was about to fly through on the consent calendar with no debate in this body, and we were fine with that. And now I've called to your attention one particular piece of the bill, and we've had a good discussion on what this proposed amendment wants to do, and we're not fine letting the bill go now that we've slowed it down and are actually talking about it. To me, that's not a reason to say no to the amendment or not a reason to deal with it today. This is far preferable than letting this fly out of here on the consent calendar as we were about to do. I'll renew my request for an aye vote.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to hear from the original bill drafter whether he thinks this is whether he agrees with this or he does not agree with this. I don't know. I'm still a little bit lost about where we need to be on this. The sponsor.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to make it clear, I view this as a friendly amendment, and I do support the amendment.
Is there further discussion on Amendment 02? Are there any no votes? Majority Leader Scheffel. Senator Baumgartner. Senator Lundberg. Senator Woods. Senator Neville. Senator Lambert. Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Holbert, Senator Scott, Senator Roberts, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Hill, Senator Balmer, Senator Grantham. Please include the President. Senator Scott, did I get you? With 19 ayes, 15 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the amendment is adopted. Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 208? Are there any no votes? Senator Baumgardner, Senator Marble, Senator Lundberg, Senator Sonnenberg, with 30 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 208 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Merrifield, Senator Stedman, Senator Newell, Senator Heath, Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would move that the Senate proceed out of order for purpose of consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 19.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate will proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 19. Mr. Majors, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 19.
Senate Joint Resolution 19 by Senators Todd and Lambert and Representatives Rosenthal and Nordberg concerning the designation of March 23, 2015 as Colorado Aerospace Day.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues, and welcome to Aerospace Day at the Capitol. We move Senate Joint Resolution 19 and ask that it not be read at length.
Continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we look at aerospace, I want to share some things first, and there are several others that will be joining me at the well. I was recalling in 1969, I had this little envelope that happened to go to the moon, and I'm going to pass this around because it actually went to the moon. When you see it, it has my maiden name, Nancy Knox, but it actually went to the moon and came back. It's been a little worse for the wear because I didn't probably take as good a care of it, but I figured it went to the moon. It should have a little bit of tarnish with it in 1969. And that was really a time that it was wonderful. It was exciting. We all knew about NASA. We all knew about the adventures of going into space exploration, and it was something very, very exciting. Through the years, we've seen some cutbacks, we've seen a lack of support, but make no mistake, this has not been because there has not been space exploration going on. So our nation and the world have significantly benefited from technological and scientific advances resulting from space exploration and aerospace activities. Colorado is the #1 aerospace state in the country in terms of per capita employment, and the 3rd largest aerospace economy in the United States in terms of total numbers, ranking only behind California and Florida. Over 163,000 Coloradans are employed in space-related jobs, generating approximately $3.2 billion, B as in billion, in annual payroll. And Colorado's home to the nation's top aerospace companies, including Ball Aerospace, Boeing, XLS, Lockheed Martin, Space Systems, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Sierra Nevada Corporation, United Launch Alliance, with close to 500 other space-related companies providing aerospace products and services, including spacecraft, launch vehicles, satellites, components, software, sensors, and navigation operations. Many Colorado companies have made significant contributions to NASA's Orion spacecraft, such as Littleton-based Lockheed Martin's role in the spacecraft's design and engineering, as well as in its components, and heat shield creation. Broomfield-based Ball Aerospace role in its flight camera development, and Centennial-based United Launch Alliance's launch of the Delta IV heavy rocket for its historic unmanned exploration flight test, known as EFT, on December 5th, just this December 5th, 2014. EFT-1 was the first flight of a human-related spacecraft in over 40 years and took Orion to an altitude of 3,600 miles above the Earth's surface, more than 15 times further than the International Space Station, re-entered the atmosphere speeds of over 20,000 miles per hour, reached temperatures of 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and was viewed at Cape Canaveral by a group of more than 400 elected officials, business leaders, citizens from Colorado, and tens of thousands more from across the nation and around the world. My husband and I have been able to go to Florida on 2 occasions. One was when the Maven launched a year ago, and then this last fall for Orion. There were more folks there from Colorado than from Florida. It was very exciting. Colorado's presence was very well known.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Aerospace, the United States is an aerospace country. We could not do what we do as a country without instantaneous communication, instantaneous location off of space satellites. And we provide those capabilities to the world. The GPS system is one system that is operated by Air Force Space Command, and it literally delivers time to every location in the world. You say, well, time, what's that all about? Well, when you have 26, 28 satellites up there that are all really just little radios, but all working off a common clock, it just tells you what time it is. But then triangulating that, you can tell your exact position within feet. And that is a revolutionary capability for navigation, for synchronizing computers all over the world. We could not do what we do with computers anywhere in the world without knowing what time it is. Exactly, down to the nanosecond. So space is not just satellites in outer space. It's also ships that are sailing to Antarctica that want to know where they are. It's the little thing on your dashboard that tells you turn right, turn left, everything else. That's where it's getting its signal. You know, back quite a while ago, you might talk to a pilot and say, well, I don't need any of those satellites up there because I got this little box on my cockpit that tells me right where I am. Well, without those satellites, he wouldn't know where he is. He wouldn't know where he's going. A lot of the industries in Colorado, and especially our institutions of higher education, are leaders in a broad category, not just of space, of aeronautics, of astronautics, of astrodynamics, and they train quite a few of our astronauts and our corporate leaders for leadership in this important, critical infrastructure for our country and for the world. We've had astronauts graduate, especially from University of Colorado Boulder and the U.S. Air Force Academy. I had astronauts that lived in my dormitory across the hall, and later became astronauts. So it's part of our Colorado culture. University of Colorado, Colorado Springs has had an active astronautics program. I work with many of their graduates at Air Force Space Command down at Peterson Air Force Base. And we train relatively junior airmen to actually fly satellites. That's what we do in Colorado. It's critical to our national defense. It's critical to our national economy and our world economy. And I think it's very appropriate that when we think about all the contributions made here in Colorado to the global positioning system, to weather satellites, to the control and defense of our satellites in space, that it's appropriate that we bring forth this resolution today, and I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. Space is ultimately the last frontier, and it is an exciting frontier. Whereas the Colorado Space Business Roundtable and Colorado Space Coalition have conducted business development road trips around the state of Colorado over the past few years. In partnership with aerospace organizations, companies, academia, the Colorado Competitive Council, Action 22, Club 20, Progressive 15, in order to find suppliers and subcontractors for aerospace projects and to promote aerospace in rural Colorado and science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM in Colorado schools and during these road trips have discovered remarkable aerospace innovations, such as the Durango Aerospace Design Team, who placed first in the NASA's National Space Settlement Design Competition, securing themselves an invitation to the World Design Finals, where they took first place in the world and won their 6th World Championship title. Thank you.
Senator Heath.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to talk a little bit about our universities, which the good senator from Colorado Springs alluded to as well. We have some of the greatest partnerships in the world. We get all excited about football games and taking on each other, but when it comes to things like this, like the Collaboratory, which is the partnership between CU, CSU, the School of Mines, and NREL, I mean, we do very, very well. Colorado's universities, including the University of Colorado at Boulder, University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, the School of Mines, Colorado State University, University of Denver, and Colorado Mesa universities are among the world's best for aerospace-related degrees and offer aerospace companies one of the country's most educated workforces, and believe me, that's why so many have chosen to locate here. I'm going to talk a little bit about CU Boulder. I'm proud to represent it. CU Boulder is producing Colorado's aerospace leaders, with graduates serving as senior executives, engineers, project managers, and program managers in aerospace-related industries throughout the state, the nation, and the world. And Boulder is also the #1 NASA-funded public university in the United States. Let me say that again. The #1 NASA-funded public university in the United States, with over a dozen aerospace-related academic units and a variety of related programs on campus that support the aerospace industry, the business of aerospace, space science and research, the application of aerospace technology, and research to solving earthbound challenges, has a top 10 graduate program in aerospace engineering. If you haven't visited it, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. It's home to the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, another must visit, which is the only research institute in the world to send missions to all 8 planets and Pluto, and is the originator of the Maven Mars mission. And we also talked a little bit, the senator from Colorado Springs, CU Boulder counts among its legacy 18 astronauts and conducts millions of dollars in world-class aerospace-related research annually, resulting in new scientific discoveries and technologies. It is truly an exciting place to be, the state of Colorado, for all that we do in this particular area, among others. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. And lest anyone think this isn't a statewide concern, I'm here to talk about Fort Lewis College in Southwest Colorado. Fort Lewis College's physics and engineering program, it's cutting-edge research and curriculum supported by multiple university and industry partners, and has been growing at 35% per year, and will be housed in a new and state-of-the-art geosciences, physics, and engineering building beginning in February 2016. And you might remember during our capital construction funding last year, we had a bit of a kerfuffle, and I'm very pleased that we moved in that direction. We were able to do the groundbreaking last spring. And this academic program enables Fort Lewis College to contribute to the scientists and engineers with aerospace-related technical skills, particularly in the areas of robotics and electromechanical systems, necessary to power economic development for aerospace and other industries throughout the region and state. And was mentioned earlier, we have a wonderful Durango aerospace design team, many whom have joined us today. So just wanted to put the plug in for Southwest Colorado.
Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I want to take this down to a little bit more of a local level. You know, we're proud to be home to large companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin in my district, and United Launch Alliance, but over half of the more than 500 aerospace companies in Colorado are small businesses. So it's a great synergy between large and small that we have going here. And I want to talk a little bit, in my district, I've had a chance to be around Lockheed Martin before it was Lockheed Martin. Of course, it was Martin Marietta. And I used to have a lot of fun going up there with my sons sometimes and taking a look at the big sign that they had out there in the 80s and the early 90s, Peace Through Strength. We all understood what that meant because we were on the front line of the Cold War. And of course, missions change. And now we have the Mars mission and other opportunities to bring people to space. But I wanted to talk about the leadership that the people that work for these companies, that they bring actually to our local communities. I think sometimes we overlook that. This is really nuts and bolts. It doesn't matter, they do things for a job within their job, but I think the more important thing that they do within their community to strengthen our community, and having an opportunity to work with many of the executives and a lot of the people that are on the front line in our aerospace community, what they bring to us in so many other different ways with local associations is extremely important. So I want to honor that today, too, as we honor the aerospace industry.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this resolution, and I also just want to say that until you've actually been to a space launch at Cape Canaveral, you don't understand what it's like to be there and hear the rockets being generated, seeing that actually lift off the ground and go up into the air. We have a lot of STEM schools now that are focusing on math and science, so I'm hoping that there are young people out there that are going to be more engaged and really want to look at this as the good senator from District 35 mentioned, the last frontier. We don't know if this is the last frontier, but I am very thankful that we have people who are very, very engaged and very excited about space exploration. I was concerned years ago when the federal government decided to limit the funding and phase out our space program, and now we have independent companies that are looking to do this. The United States has always been a leader, and Colorado continues to be a leader with the programs that you've heard about before from the good senator from Boulder. And so I rise in support of this, and I just want to say thank you to all of the members of the Colorado communities who put their hard work and that drive into finding more ways to keep Colorado on the map with regards to space exploration. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of the resolution. And just wanted to talk a little bit about who came before us. And to get to this point, the people that tried and failed, the people that gave their lives, which one, Gus Grissom, was one of the first people actually to be in space and actually when was killed along with a couple of his fellow astronauts, Ed White and Roger Chaffee, during a pre-launch test of Apollo 1. And we're going back into history, I know that. But without these people doing those tests, going into space, we wouldn't be where we are today. They were the ones that took the steps, that paid that sacrifice to make sure that we are a leader, not only in the nation, but in the world as far as space exploration goes. And I just wanted to rise in support and remind everybody that this is just about not today. This is about the past and going into the future. The steps that have been made to this point and the ones that we'll continue to have as we go into the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I didn't want to neglect Metro State because they have an active aeronautics program there as well. And I can't remember if we mentioned that or not, but I didn't want to have the time go by here and not mention the active program at Metro State and a lot of the other courses that are offered around the state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused. Senate Joint Resolution 19 is adopted. Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I ask that the morning roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Without objection, the morning roll call will be included as co-sponsors. The Senate will stand in a brief recess so we can greet our guests.
May we
The Senate will come back to order. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I move that the Senate continue to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Senate will proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege. Senator Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I'd like to welcome today the American Heritage Girls Troop 5280 from my district. They have participated this year in the National Day of Service. We're honored with the National Day of Service Award because they served with 250 other troops all across the country and racked up 10,000 hours of service. So I'm just going to introduce the girls, have them stand real quickly, and then we will get back to business. Adelena Wilcox, Kay Lindemann, Annika Carlson, Madeline Elbert, Paulina Small, Natalia Small, Image Holcomb, Kinsey Lindemann, Eliza Taliente, Tori Elbert, Kylie Wilcox, Jaden Hegarty, Kristen Hegarty. And the adult sponsors are Aaron Holcomb, Kathy Hegarty, Jennifer Elbert, and Rosanna Lindemann. This troop was established in 2013. American Heritage Girls was established in 1995, and they do provide service to the communities by providing canned food through drives. They create crafts for nursing homes. They make cards and treats for soldiers, police, and firefighters. So colleagues, would you join with me in welcoming them? My regrets. Jocelyn, thank you very much. Jocelyn Gernot is the other name that I added to my list late, and it wasn't in order. So Jocelyn, I'm sorry for forgetting, but Jocelyn as well.
General orders, second reading of bills. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate
resolve
itself into the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of second reading of bills.
General orders.
General orders.
You have heard a motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills. Senator Sonnenberg will take the chair.
Committee will come to order. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time I move that the committee take up general order second reading of bills in the following order, beginning with Senate Bill 129, followed by House Bill 1072, followed by House Bill 1164, and then the remaining bills on the second reading of bills, general orders calendar as they appear in the calendar. Ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate. Oh, that is a motion. I apologize. The motion before us is to change the orders of the general order second reading of bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate Bill 129.
Senate Bill 129 by Senator Lundberg concerning preserving the parent-child relationship and domestic relations actions.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I move Senate Bill 129. It's a kind of a dangerous thing when your bill folder gets too thick to fit in your folder, so sit tight here. However, on to the committee reports. We have a committee report for Judiciary and a committee report for Appropriations. Because there is a strike below, which has been on your table since, or your desk since Friday, I recommend a no vote on the committee reports, and we can proceed from there. So I have to move the Judiciary Committee report, but I ask for a no.
So the motion before us is adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. Any other discussion on the Judiciary Committee? Seeing none. All in favor of adopting the Judiciary Committee report signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
The noes have it. The Judiciary Committee report is lost. To the Appropriations Committee report for a motion, Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Appropriations Committee report and ask for a no vote.
Question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed to the
No.
great work of the Appropriations Committee signify by saying no.
No.
The Appropriations Committee report is lost. To the bill, Senator Lundberg, there is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, please read Amendment L013.
Amendment L013 to Senate Bill 129.
Senator Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I move L013, and we'll explain this and then let the sponsor proceed with talking about the reasons and more about the bill. But this amendment is the bill at this point in time. What this is it is recognizing that for most kids, having a mutual and strong relationship with both parents is generally beneficial for both the kids and parents. But the way this is rewritten, it preserves the best interest of the child standard that we've had in Colorado for quite a while. But what it does do is if a judge does not order substantially equal parenting time, it does require an enhanced findings of fact as to why that would be in the best interest of the child. And similarly, you'll see conforming sections throughout here where it basically does the same thing in a couple places of family code. And then in the section where those that are doing the evaluations, if they wind up recommending something that isn't substantially equal parenting time, it also has them provide the reasons for them as well, why that would be in the best interest of the child. Just want to put in a lot of thanks to the sponsor and those in the community that are trying to make sure that we can make some improvements we need to in the family law system and still protect the best interests of the child standard. And just want to thank him for his work on this and ask for an aye vote on L013.
Before I recognize Senator Lundberg, to the Honorable Minority Leader Carroll, I apologize for recognizing you in an inappropriate manner. Thank you. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I suppose it would be appropriate to give the title and a slight description of the bill. The good senator from Aurora who offers the amendment, for which I am considering this a friendly amendment and urging an aye vote on the amendment, is worked with us quite a bit. But the title of the bill, just in case you might be wondering, maybe you're watching on the Colorado Channel and curious as to what 129 is all about. It's concerning preserving the parent-child relationship in domestic relations actions. And it's that very difficult question of, in the case of a divorce where there are children, who of the parents gets the custody of the child. And this bill is intended to simply say, let's start from the presumption that the child's best interest is best served by contact with both parents. And there are, of course, many, many exceptions to that for which we tried to accommodate throughout the bill, but then with the amendment before us, it really does tighten this up significantly. But I believe that that basic principle is still in place, that under circumstances where it's appropriate, the court should start from the presumption that both parents have a responsibility and a role to play in their children's lives, and therefore substantially equal parenting time is an appropriate beginning point. Again, the amendment is not as prescriptive as the original bill, but we have, I believe, found some common ground on a very difficult issue for which we really can't avoid government involvement in the details of a family that has been torn apart by divorce. I urge the adoption of this amendment and the bill, and we can send it over to the House and have, I'm sure they will have some discussion on it as well, but a lot of work has gone into it, probably, I was about to say hundreds of hours, but that would be an understatement. Thousands and thousands of hours on this issue, and Senate Bill 129 seeks to find a little more justice and equity and really focuses on the real point of it, and that is the best interest of the child.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this amendment, and I want to commend the bill sponsor as well as the good senator from Aurora who worked on the amendment. My role in all of this was that I met on a few occasions with the proponents of the bill, and I tried to listen to their concerns and what their intentions were with putting forth this Senate Bill 129. And I believe that my role was to try to bring people together, to listen to each other better, and I think ultimately we came up with this resolution because there were still concerns, even with the proposed amendment that we saw that was not actually presented. And I think ultimately, with a lot of good discussion and listening to one another, we came up with this solution, which I think is in the best interest of the child and does require the court system to make it clear that if there's not substantially equal parenting time, then they have to, I'm not a lawyer, but they have to provide findings of fact, which provide evidence why they came to that decision. So I rise in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to rise and thank the sponsors and the sponsor and the other senators for creating a more fair and balanced way to do this without creating a particular template that you have to fit into. This really does help to have that significant involvement of both parents and make sure that it does not undo what we did last year, 2012, where the safety of the child is not the utmost important. So the best interest of the child standard is still upheld, and I really do appreciate it. And thank you, Senator from Berthoud, for bringing this forward.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L013. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. L013 is adopted. To the bill, Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good bill. Vote yes.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 129. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 129 is adopted. Mr. Majors, please read the title of House Bill 1072.
House Bill 1072 by Representative Fields and Senator Newell concerning harassment through an interactive electronic medium.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1072. And members, this is the interactive electronic harassment bill.
Any other discussion? Senator Baumgardner.
Well,
Senator Newell.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought I needed permission from you to go on, so if I may just introduce the concept of the bill. The problem that we have been dealing with House Bill 1072, the issue that we've been trying to resolve, is that traditional forms of bullying have been present in society for schools for many years. Last year, we did have a cyberbullying bill, and we in the Senate, it came over from the House, and we in the Senate could not get it through the way that it wrote because of being too broad and potentially accidentally capturing kiddos who make a bad decision. So instead, we went to the CCJ, the Colorado Criminal and Juvenile Justice Commission, and asked them to create a subcommittee and come back with recommendations. So we did that over the interim. I happen to be one of the members of that, and the members were people, we had the chiefs of police, we had the district attorneys, the criminal defense bar, the ACLU, Douglas County Sheriff's Office. We had people from the education community there as well. So we met for hours and came up unanimously with a narrower bill, which you see before you, which is just putting inside the current existing harassment statute, which would be to have directly or indirectly, and instead currently we have initiates communication with a person or directs language. So this way it can involve the online harassment. Now what's important about this, and it does include the interactive electronic medium as well. What's important about this is that it still requires a criminal intent. It still requires a reasonable person standard to find a criminal intent for harassment, and that is to harass, annoy, or alarm another person. So with that, it had passed unanimously out of judiciary, 8-1, out of business, and with that, Mr. Chair and members, I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Baumgardner. Oops, there's an amendment on the desk. Max, would you please read the, oh, I'm sorry. Please read.
It's the
Mr. Majors, please read the amendment L019.
Amendment L019, House Bill
Senator
1072.
Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we talked about this in committee, as in to continue.
Senator Baumgardner, would you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I move L019.
Go ahead,
Thank you. L019 speaks to the age of a person. What it does basically is it says a person commits harassment if a minor, if the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm a minor, which speaks to 18 years and below, and it speaks to the directly initiates communication with the minor by any electronic medium, includes interactive electronic mediums with speech that is deemed obscene, and obscene is defined in the amendment, lines 29 through 34. Unless the harassment, and of course it'll make the minor will be charged with a class 3 misdemeanor unless the harassment is because of an actual perceived to race, color, ancestry, national origin, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and then it will be a Class 1 misdemeanor. Ask for an aye vote.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Do you need some more time? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just ask for a senatorial 5 to review this amendment.
We will stand in a senatorial 5. Committee will come back to order. Majority Leader Scheffel. Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May we lay it over? Do I do that? Okay, so I can, okay.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May we have a few more minutes to deal with this amendment, because this is the first time I'm seeing it.
Senator Baumgartner.
At this time, Mr. Chair, I'll withdraw L019.
L019 is withdrawn. Senator Woods. Oh, there is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read Amendment L017?
Amendment 017 is House Bill.
Senator Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L017.
Senator Woods, please tell us about L017.
Thank you. This is another conversation we had during the committee, and I did work with the bill sponsor on whether or not we needed this amendment. We do think it's very important to protect children who are being bullied, while at the same time protecting First Amendment rights that were guaranteed, and that's all that this language does, is add the First Amendment rights to the bill as drafted.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this amendment, I did get, a similar amendment, I did get input from the stakeholders on, which was that their position, some of the people's position were saying that no statute that we put into effect at the state level can infringe upon any fundamental right ever, yet we do not write that into each and every law. It is so for some, the DAs, for instance, they are saying it's unnecessary. They realize that the approach, along with excessive social commentary and legislative declarations, it seems to be becoming prevalent, but they don't believe that it is needed. And so, on the other hand, a couple of people were saying, well, we don't see a problem with it, so...
It goes back to business committee, because that was her deal.
So okay, so anyway, so members, Can I concentrate? Thank you. I know. Okay. So anyway, Mr. Chair, what I am saying is that I went back to the stakeholders, and they're both camps. And so, because some believe that it will not do any harm, I would be willing to. It's not a friendly amendment, but I have no way of getting around it. So I would not support it.
So you will support it, or you won't support it?
It's fine. It's fine.
Members, please go through the chair. Any other discussion? Senator Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did have a little bit of conversation with our district attorney from our county, and he is in support of this, I do believe, so I ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L017. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. L017 is adopted. Is there to the bill? Is there any other discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1072. Senator Neville, I'm sorry, do that again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I oppose this bill in Senate Business, Labor, and Technology and continue to oppose this bill. You know, when we start talking about putting in a bill that says that if we annoy someone, it's actually a criminal offense, I have a problem with that. This is a slippery slope. I ask for a no on the bill.
Is there any other discussion? Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Request another senatorial 2.
Senate will stand in a senatorial 5. Committee will come back to order. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee lay over House Bill 1072 to March 24th.
Question before us is to lay over our House Bill 1072. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 10 or House Bill 1072 is laid over. Mr. Majors, please read the title of House Bill 1164.
House Bill 1164 by Representative Pedersen and Senator Kerr concerning the postponement of jury service for a person who is breastfeeding a child.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1164, and there is no committee report.
Thank you, Senator Kerr. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read Amendment L002?
Amendment L002 to
Senator
House Bill 1164.
Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L002.
L002 has been moved. Senator Kerr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. L002 strikes a couple of words around licensed physicians. As we were having this discussion in the Judiciary Committee, and the esteemed chair of the Judiciary Committee brought up that it should be a little bit more broad, that a woman who was requesting this postponement would not need to go to a licensed physician, probably have to pay a copay or pay money in order to get the note that would otherwise make sure that they could have the postponement. I ask for the passage of L002.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is Amendment L002. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. L002 is adopted to the bill. Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Being a citizen of the state of Colorado here in the United States, we have rights and responsibilities. And one of our responsibilities is to serve on jury duty. This bill does not change that responsibility, but it does fit in with current statute that says that in special cases, people may ask for a postponement of that jury service. And I think you can tell by the title what those particular cases are. And with that, I ask for the adoption of House Bill 1164.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the description that the sponsor gave of the bill, because those are the terms that I want to discuss a little bit why I voted against it in committee. Because if you look at statute, you discover that the exceptions are not delineated of this special group and this special group and this special group. It's merely an acknowledgement that the court may determine the exceptions that are created or that are allowed. And the problem I have with this bill is it's now creating a whole new mechanism for determining those exceptions by listing them. And we get ourselves into a great deal of trouble when we start listing circumstances that really cannot be predicted. And this is a pattern I don't believe we should engage in. And I would buttress my discussion for the particulars of this bill, which is to state that it is a practical reality that courts do provide the excuse. And for that reason, and primarily for the reason that we shouldn't go down the road of starting to tell courts, okay, here's the exception, and here's the exception, and here's the exception for jury duty, as much as to acknowledge, which current law already does, that there are times and places that exception should be allowed. Let me give you one little footnote, too, and this is an email I received over the weekend, and it was for another exception. This one was for age. The person was asking me, could you not put an exception to jury service for age? And the example they gave was their 92, I believe, 92-year-old father, who they said, in their opinion, was not capable of providing good service as a juror, and was also not that capable of going down for the jury service duty. That's a valid concern. And I know I've had some times when I've been called for jury service where I've had to contact the court and say, you know, there's a real problem with such and such a date. Can we not change this? And I found them to be amenable to that. Well, as I say, the person who was contacting me said, can we not draw the line? They suggested that no one over 70 be required to give jury service. I don't think that would be the right date, but more importantly, I don't think we should be putting in statute precisely the age at which someone will no longer be called for jury duty, and make that one of those exceptions. So too, for this particular bill before us, I believe it's not an appropriate policy to specify, okay, this special category we will carve out. It won't be just one. It will be the beginning of a long list for which I say, just say no.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the comments from the good senator from Berthoud. Got it right that time. Yeah. And as far as an age exception, that certainly that would fit within statute, that somebody could apply to the jury commissioner and ask to be excused. Also, in the case of age, is a case where if somebody reached a certain age and either they or perhaps a family member who is helping them was able to, did apply for being excused from jury duty. Certainly age is something that it's a condition that doesn't reverse itself. It's a permanent condition that we're all subject to. And there is language in current statute that allows that the judge or jury commissioner can permanently excuse a person if under certain circumstances. So this is a case where somebody reaches a certain age, they no longer feel comfortable, they call the they call the jury commissioner or the judge could give them a permanent excuse note condition for not serving. So I would say that that is different than what this bill does, because the condition that we're talking about in breastfeeding a child is certainly a temporary, non-permanent condition. Also, I would say that this fits directly in with both the letter of the law and the intent. And let me read this to you. A person shall be excused temporarily from service as a juror if his or her jury service would cause undue or extreme physical hardship to him or her or to another person under his or her direct care or supervision. And then a little bit further down, it talks about how to describe that the jury service would be required, the person serving would be required to abandon a person under his or her direct care or supervision because of the, and this is the important part, inability to obtain an appropriate substitute care provider. And certainly we've all dealt with, many of us have dealt with child care provider situations. In the case of an infant that will not take a bottle, that will only breastfeed from his or her mother, that is the case, and we heard testimony to that case. With that, I ask for the adoption of House Bill 1164.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1164. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1164 is adopted. Senate Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move that the committee lay over the balance of the general order's second reading of bills calendar to March 24.
The question before us is to lay over the remainder of the second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
Question before us is the committee to rise and report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had 3 bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report of the Committee of the Whole?
March 23, 2015, Mr. President, your committee, the whole basic reports that are in consideration of the following text bills being second reading, make following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 129 is amended, passed on second reading in order to gross place the counter for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1164 is amended, passed on second reading in order to revise place the counter for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1072 is amended, Senate Bill 135, Senate Bill 86, Senate Bill 45, Senate Bill 91, House Bill 1095, House Bill 1046, Senate Bill 177, House Bill 1130, laid over until March 24, 2015, retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Is there further discussion on the report of the Committee of the Whole? Are there any no votes? 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused. The Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 129, as amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1164, as amended, passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1072, as amended, Senate Bill 135, Senate Bill 86, Senate Bill 45, Senate Bill 91, House Bill 1095, House Bill 1046, Senate Bill 177, House Bill 1130, laid over until March 24th and retaining their place on the calendar. Consideration of resolutions consent calendar. Mr. Majors, please read the title of House Joint Resolution 1016.
House Joint Resolution 1016 by Representatives Brown and Quorum, Senator Roberts, concerning the remembrance of Ute history in Colorado and in connection therewith honoring the heritage and culture of the Southern Ute Indian Tribe and the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the Senate adopt the resolutions listed on the consideration of resolutions consent calendar, which includes House Joint Resolution 1016.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Joint Resolution 1016 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the current roll call be added as co-sponsors of House Joint Resolution 1016.
Without objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors to House Joint Resolution 16. Consideration of House amendments to Senate resolutions. Mr. Majors, please read Senate Joint Resolution 4.
Senate Joint Resolution 4 by Senator Roberts and Representative Hamner concerning requests to the federal government regarding support for wildland fire suppression.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we concur, hard as that is to say, with House amendments to Senate Joint Resolution 4
You have heard the motion.
for this.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused. Senate Joint Resolution 4, the amendments from the House are adopted. Mr. Majority Leader Sheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for the readoption of Senate Joint Resolution 4.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 4, as amended, is readopted. Consideration of conference committee reports. Mr. Majors, please read the title to Senate Bill 161.
Senate Bill 161 by Senator Lambert, Representative Hamner, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Revenue.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adopt the first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 161.
Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the first report of the first conference committee, Senate Bill 161, is adopted. Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the readoption of Senate Bill 161.
You have heard the motion. Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 161 is readopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Ulibarri, Senator Crowder, Senator Jones, Senator Kafalis, Senator Guzman, Senator Martinez-Humenick, message from the House.
March 23, 2015, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted the advisory statute House Bill 1239. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted the advisory statute House Bill 1147 as amended, House Bill 1215 as amended, House Bill 1259 as amended, House Bill 1255 as amended, House Bill 1218 as amended. The House has passed on third reading and returns to it Senate Bills 171, 105, 599, and 126. The House has voted to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1067 and has repassed the bill as so amended. The House has adopted and returns to it Senate Joint Resolution 19.
Message from the Reviser.
March 23, 2015, we herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1239, without comment as amended, House Bills 1147, 1215, 1218, 1255, and 1259.
Signing of bills.
March 23, 2015, the President has signed Senate Bills 13, 19, 47, 103, 116, and 128, and House Bills 1004, 1031, 1048, 1150, 1182, 1209, 1211, and 1254.
Announcements. Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is Doll Day. The dolls were made by children across Colorado. Doll Day is sponsored by the Colorado Children's Campaign, which is celebrating its 30th year as a trusted nonpartisan source of data, expertise on Colorado's children. Doll Day also marks the release of Children's Campaign annual Kids Count in Colorado. Report it provides us with vital data information on the status of children in our state. Kids Count offers both statewide and county-specific data on how kids are faring. You know, I think if you would look at your dolls, you would see there's a deal on the back of it. There's a lot of stories in this, you know, And I think it'd be an interesting item to take a look at, because these are stories from the kids that made the dolls. But I think, I for one thank them for the doll, and turn it over to my co-prime.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I too rise in support once again for the Colorado Children's Campaign, who every year brings us these dolls from those dolls in throughout Colorado. And please take your dolls, display them in your office. Actually, I still have every single doll from, 2009 was my first session here. And you can take photos of them, put them on social media. If you do, use the hashtag #KidsCount. They stand as a reminder to us to continue making children a priority as we go through our important policy decisions. It's a long-standing tradition here at the Capitol. I hope you join me in also taking advantage of the statewide network of advocates for children around the state. So thank you so much, Mr. President, and it's 30 years strong that Colorado Children's Campaign has been. So thank you, Colorado Children's Campaign.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I can tag along with the moment of personal privilege and announcements around Doll Day, I show you, Mr. President, the doll that was on my desk. And I think there's supposed to be something personal about each doll and why they're put at our desk. I'm not sure. Maybe it's...
I believe my doll was stolen.
I was going to say maybe because he's wearing bike shorts or something, but not sure. I'm not sure if this was meant for me, though, because on the back it says, "We need full-day kindergarten in Douglas County. Research shows it is well worth the investment." So maybe I need to give it to a senator from Douglas County.
Those remarks are out of order. And you know it. Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to remind you that down on first floor, Aerospace Day at the Capitol, the displays are phenomenal. Please spend time, go down and talk with and listen and learn. And there is lunch. And then at the end of the day, you can go to Katie Mullins down on Court Place and join some of our aerospace industry folks to chat with them a little more casually. And also, there is a flyer on your desk about the Preparing Students for Career Success Workforce Development Caucuses on Thursday. So please RSVP by Wednesday. We would love to see you there. Thank you. Have a great day.
Announcements. Senator Newell.
Mr. President, I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention that on your desk also, you have these Kids Count books. And in there, if you are new to the chamber, there are county-specific stats and research for you, data that you can use. You can take to your town halls. You can use as you are looking at your policy decisions. So thank you.
Further announcements? Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. No other announcements. Move the Senate adjourned to 9 a.m. Tuesday, March 24th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate will be adjourned until Tuesday, March 24th, 9 a.m.